Hi, and welcome to our second episode of No Notes Needed. I'm Natasha Fitch, Commercial Manager for Biological Safety Cabinets here at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And today we're going to talk with you about airflow, how we can see it, why it's important, and how it controls particulate contamination. To discuss this topic, I'm joined by our subject matter expert, Dr. Dave Phillips. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really interesting what we discussed last time when we talked about the particle counter. So it got me to thinking, what can we do with a smoke machine?
As you know, I really love the particle counter, but the thing it doesn't really show you is air. So with the smoke machine, we're going to get a closer look at the air barrier and the interaction of airflows that create the air barrier. So first, using the smoke, see how if the air from inside is able to escape out that front opening.
So I'm seeing that the smoke doesn't escape from the inside of the cabinet to the outside of the cabinet. It's stopped by that air barrier right at the front grill.
Right, and that's that inward flow of air. People always talk about inflow and downflow. So now, point the smoke from the outside in and notice how it doesn't reach the work surface.
You're right, it gets taken in by the front grill here.
So kind of the magic of biosafety cabinets is no unfiltered air gets from inside the cabinet out or outside the cabinet in. So there's a third thing to look at. Go ahead and move it onto the work surface, say the center, from front to back, and notice how the smoke splits. We actually call it the split, but the smoke splits with about half the smoke going to the back grate and half the downflow going to the front grate. Now move it from left to right, and notice how the smoke continues that movement of to front and back, but not so much right to left. So the unidirectional or almost laminar airflow that's downflow limits the cross-contamination, which is why we're always telling people to work clean to dirty. So for the right-handed person, they would have their clean supplies on the right, the dirty waste on the left, and contaminants on the left could not reach the clean stuff on the right.
You're right, it really remains localized in the specific area, and that's awesome for cross-contamination. You don't have to worry about your samples getting dirty from one side to the other, contaminating each other.
So with the smoke, anything that you wanted to check out?
Yeah, I thought the next thing that we should look at is the armrest, because often you're working in there and your arms are blocking the front grill, and I'm thinking, how does that work?
So I have my arms on the armrest, so I'm positioned to work here. Now see how the smoke, see how it flows around my arm and then under the over-the-grill armrest to the grill.
Yeah, you can see that there's no smoke that's getting to the work surface of the biological safety cabinet. It's all going down into the front grill.
And so we're going to compare that to how it is without the armrest. So if I take the armrest off.
You're right, some of the smoke is getting more lost here and coming onto the work surface.
And there's also an additional effect of when I reach forward, I tend to pull more forward, while if I do the same thing with the armrest in place, it's much less. So I think armrests, if you're not used to it, they seem a little awkward, but once you get the hang of it, one, it supports your forearms, which is good, but two, it actually improves the containment of the work area. We're looking at the operation of the SmartPort grommet. We've actually removed the grommets to make it even a more challenging test. Now, Natasha, if you could bring the smoke in from your side, up high above the opening, and notice how none of that smoke is getting through. You can push it to the hole a little bit more, not in the hole, but yeah, it's getting contained from that side. So let's go ahead and try it from the other side. Hand me the smoke.
Okay, so and as you can see, the smoke that's being generated from the outside of the cabinet is not coming in to the inside of the cabinet here. The smoke is going up through the double layer wall here. It's creating a negative pressure and the smoke is being pushed up into the plenum. So the great thing about this is that for the SmartPorts, you don't have to worry about there getting contamination from the outside of the cabinet in or inside of the cabinet out. So it just provides that other level of containment.
Okay, so how'd you like the smoke?
I really enjoyed seeing what the smoke could do. I really liked how it showed us how well there's containment at that front barrier, that you don't get smoke from the inside of the cabinet going out, any from the out going in. Also, I really thought it was interesting showing that split that happened at the front grille and the back grille, where you got to see that that was localized. But of course, my favorite is the smart ports at the end. Getting to see that double negative pressure wall there is really cool.
The challenge for the user is to take their observation of stuff like the smoke studies and even the particle count and remember that as they work with the cabinets that is behaving in exactly the same way. So they have to imagine as if smoke was going around their arms as they move around so that they're managing the particles and contamination the way they want. But it's a whole lot easier to have at least seen it once and try to visualize it versus just trying to visualize it from your own imagination. But it was a lot of fun. I have one question though. What do you want to do next?
Well, I have a lot of ideas for our next episode of No Notes Needed, but I'd also like to hear from our viewers to see what they would like and what they would think would be really interesting. For me, I'd like to see, that exhaust, the thimble connection, see how we could get that to work. I'd also like to take a look at a B2 cabinet as well, or maybe look at the interior of the cabinet, the motors, exactly how it works on the inside. So those are just some topic ideas, but we would love to hear from you. So thank you all for tuning in to our second episode, and until next time.
See you then.